All right, good evening. Call this meeting of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment to order. Amy, would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Fuller?
Here.
Mr. Delomo?
Here.
Ms. Littman?
Here.
Mr. Van Wagner? Mr. Ashkenazi?
Here.
Mr. Chmura?
Here.
Mr. DeGennaro?
Here.
Ms. Kaplan?
Here.
Mr. Lineski?
Here.
Mr. Puglielli?
Here.
Madam Chair.
Please rise for the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
The notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on July 22nd, 2023. Oh, no, that was 22, right? That was last year? Okay. I thought that was a typo. There is an emergency exit through the courtroom doors and 2 exits at the rear of the room. Hopefully everybody knows there's no smoking allowed in this building. Board policy states that no new cases will be started after 10 p.m., no new testimony taken after 10:30 p.m. In addition, the applicant will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios and Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off. If you need to make a call, please take your call outside of the meeting room. First order of business is our reorganization. Mr. Steinberg, will you walk us through the swearing menu, the members?
Okay. The oath. So we need all the new members to stand up, please. And be counted. Just the 3 tonight? Okay, gentlemen.
Do we have Mr. Puglielli also has an oath in front of him? Is he
Anybody who was
shifted maybe?
appointed for a different position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also need to be sworn in. I forgot that was my error. And if you please repeat after me, I, so-and-so, your name please.
I'm Mark Lineski.
I'm Lisa
Do
Littman.
solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
That I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
to the established in the United
and
States
in this state
and this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
Further, I solemnly swear faithfully and justly
perform all the duties of the position of, as is indicated on your sheet, please,
from all the duties and positions as alternate number 3 of the Zoning Board of Adjustments
of the Township of Ocean, according to the best of my ability, according to the will of God, effective July 1st, through 2000. Whatever. Some of us have different terms, right?
27.
27.
Right.
I don't know.
Yep.
All 27?
2025.
2025. That's it. Congratulations.
Congratulations, members.
Come back.
Please sign your
If
sheet.
you'll sign it and hand it to me, I'll notarize all those. And then we swear in the clerk.
What date is it? Was it 1st?
Then the next thing, I guess, would be nomination for officers.
Okay, at this time we'll have a nomination, entertain nominations for chairman of the board.
Nominate Shawanda.
We have a nomination for Shawanda Beal. I'll second that.
Mr. Delomo.
Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Delomo?
Yeah, but, well, are there any other nominations?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I'll make a nomination for Rich Van Wagner for vice chair.
We didn't get to that yet. We're still doing the chairman.
Chair first.
No, I
Oh,
guess
you mean for the chair?
you would ask if there's any other.
Yeah, are there any other nominations for the position of chair?
Then you can close the nomination.
Okay, I'll close the nominations.
Now we can ask for a vote.
And now let's vote, please.
Just in case.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Delomo?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chmura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Lineski?
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to electing our vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for vice chairman?
I will now nominate
I will second that. Do we have any other nominations for position of vice chair? Hearing none, let's close the nominations. Let's have a vote.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLomo.
Yes.
Ms. Whitney.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Congratulations to our new chair and vice chair. And it's a point of personal privilege. This is why you always go to meetings, because you may get stuck with something if you don't show up. We're moving on to approving minutes, meeting dates for the upcoming year. Those have been distributed previously,
I believe they're posted.
and they should be posted on the wall over there too. I think we can just take a move the calendar. Anybody second?
Second.
Amy, roll call, please.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo.
Yes.
Ms. Littman.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, item 5, appointing the Board of Adjustment attorney. I'd like to move Mr. Steinberg remains as our attorney. Does anybody second that?
Second.
And we'd like to note publicly that all the appointments are subject to certification by our CMFO. They receive it before the meeting, but I want to make certain everyone knows.
Okay. Thank you.
That means we won't get paid. That's approved.
Do we have any other nominations for adjustment attorney? Board of Adjustment attorney, excuse me. Hearing none. Amy, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo.
Yes.
Ms. Littman.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
That's one.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we should.
Congratulations, Mr. Steinberg. You're stuck with us for another year.
Pleasure.
Item 6, appointment of Board Adjustment Planner. Nobody else wants to talk tonight? Great. I'd like to nominate Mr. Higgins.
Second.
Thank you for that. Does anybody have any other nominations? Hearing none. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo.
Yes.
Ms. Littman.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, item 7, appointment Board of Adjustment Engineer. I'd like to nominate Mr. Matlack.
Appoint CME Engineering.
Oh, CME Engineering. Yes, you're right.
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations for Board of Adjustment Engineer? Hearing none. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo.
Yes.
Ms. Littman.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations. Item 8, appointment of Board of Adjustment Secretary. Amy, you still up for this?
And I would,
What?
you know, we're here, we're gonna,
Yeah.
someone should move to appoint Amy from today to the end of the month when she changes her position. And also, secondly, nominate, we can do it together, nominate Claire Villanova as our board secretary as of August 1st to the balance of the term, at which point Amy will be the assistant secretary.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Exactly. What he said. Move for whatever he said. Yeah.
Do we have to ask?
Oh,
or is-
Do we have any other nominations? No. Hearing none. Amy.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo.
Yes.
Ms. Littman.
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Mr. Chimura.
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Luneski.
Yes.
And Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
As an
Okay.
added item on the agenda, someone needs to move to appoint the Board of Adjustment Administrator.
I'll move Ronald Kirk as.
Second.
All third.
Does anybody have any other competing nominations? Hearing none, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Delomo?
Yes.
Ms. Lippman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chimura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Lineski?
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Kirk. Item 9, swearing in of professionals.
Right, and Ron too, right? Yes. Okay, gentlemen, you have it in front of you. You want to stand? How come the lawyer doesn't get sworn in?
You swear enough.
All right, gentlemen, if you'll just read I.
I, James W. Higgins, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, to the governments established in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people, that all testimony that I shall provide during all hearings throughout my term shall be under oath, and therefore will be under legal obligation to speak the truth at all times. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform the duties of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment planner according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Pass them on.
Thank you very much.
Missing.
Does anyone else have any of the oaths?
The oath, there's a couple oaths
There are a couple oaths that are
that
missing.
missing that you signed. If you can pass them down.
Thank you.
Resolution memorialization. These resolutions are from previous actions the board took last month. They are all posted over on the wall. I think, let's see, bulk. We can all do these as one, I believe. Can I get agreement on that?
Yeah, Amy, all the same vote, wasn't it last time? All the same people? Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be memorializing Melanie and Till J. Delaval in Block 33, Lot 68, 1635 Finder Street in Ocean. Megan Gill, Block 33.22, Lot 10, 1902 Fanwood Street. Bonnie Batesh, Block 63, Lot 1, 510 Staffa Street. Alberto Weingort, Block 2516, Lot 1. And David Brancato, Block 119, Lot 9, 1504 North Wanamassa Drive. Anybody make a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Delomo?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli?
Yes.
Okay, the following cases will be carried to August 17th, 2023 to be held in person here at 399 Monmouth Road. They will not need any further public notice. Ashkenazi, Block 11.01, Lot 3, 1036 Norwood Avenue. Soror Land Development, Block 22, Lots 85 and 85.01, 280 Norwood Avenue. Memo Investments LLC, Block 7, Lot 51, 44 Monmouth Road, and John Radigan, Block 153.04, Lot 6, 2 Watermill Court. Which brings us to our first continued case. 1 Ilion High School, Incorporated, Block 207, Lot 1 and 6, 1200 Roselle Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Chip.
You're on.
No, it's on.
Is it?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Yep, it's on. Jennifer Kirk on behalf of the applicant. And before we get started, I would just ask Amy, those members who were not at the prior meetings, had they had the opportunity to listen to the tapes and sign certifications?
They did not.
Okay, so fortunately, I know we're not gonna finish tonight. 1, because we're limited to 45 minutes, and 2, because our planner isn't here, and obviously he's the last witness to go. But if I just take a look, if we were going to go forward tonight, it appears to me that Mr. DeGenaro, Mr. Puglielli, Mr. Ashkenazi, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Delomo would be eligible. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just ask if possible that the new board members and any other board members that missed some hearings, if they could possibly listen to the tapes and certify for the next meeting, because subject obviously to the public's presentation and comments, we would hope to finish at the next meeting. So with all of that, and just by way of reminder, I just want I just want to stipulate a few things into the record for you. There were some questions that were asked at the last meeting, and I have some answers, and I wanted to provide them to you. One of the board members had asked, we have parking for 3 coach buses on site, and there was testimony that there would be 4, and the question was, where is the 4th one going to be during the day? It will be parked at the Seaman Tove Bus Depot at 505 Memorial Drive in Neptune. There were questions with regard to the interior lighting being shut off. My client had an opportunity to meet with the neighbor who was most particularly concerned. They had their electrician there the following day, and all timers have been installed, and they are scheduled to turn off at 10 p.m. There were questions, I should say, with regard to trash pickup before 7 a.m. My client spoke with the trash hauler and had reiterated and confirmed that there will be no pickup before 7 a.m. There were questions with regard to, the custodial staff and the noise that they might make when depositing garbage in the trash enclosure. And we had an opportunity to confirm that all custodial staff will be done by 10 p.m. And lastly, there was a question, I don't remember if it was from the public or member of the board, as to the location of the Sukkah during Sukkot. And at this point, we don't have a location to show you, but we'll provide that by the next meeting. I don't believe that it requires site plan approval, nor does it require building permit approval, but because of the question was asked, we wanted to be able to show it to you. And then lastly, based on the testimony at the last hearing, while we don't have revised plans for you tonight, I just wanted to remind you those things that we did agree to. We agreed to increase the planting height of the evergreens to 10 to 12 feet at planting. We agreed to supplement the trees that have died. We agreed to relocate the light poles farther from Roselle Avenue to meet the front yard setback from Roselle. We agreed to extend the fence along the southern edge of the proposed new spaces and from the existing location to the proposed location and 20 feet to the north along the east end of the site. If the board wants us to, and again, we're open to either because we don't need the spots, but we've agreed that we would green bank those additional 3 spaces if the board so desired. There was a request that we match the fence on the south side of the site with the old fence and the new fence, and we'd agreed to that. We agreed that we would not extend the sidewalk for the entirety of the Logan Road frontage. It would end at the driveway at its intersection with Interlaken Avenue, and we would propose a crosswalk as was suggested, I think, from a member of the public and your board's professionals. And then lastly, we will revise the island per our traffic engineer's testimony to clip it off a little bit to allow for the truck turning. So while we hope to have revised plans by the next meeting, I just wanted to refresh your recollection as to the testimony at the last meeting. Tonight I have the principal and one of the owners of the architectural firm who prepared the architectural plans for you. I'd like to introduce Nicholas Graviano. Have him come up and have him sworn. And as you'll hear through his credentials, while Nick is a licensed professional planner, he is testifying in his capacity as project manager for the architectural firm who created the plans. Amy, you want to help out with that? Why don't you let Amy give it a try?
Testing.
Yep, there you go. So, Nick, if I can have you sworn, and then I'll take a moment and have you tell the board what your relation is to the application. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr.
Do we do the credentials or the swear first?
Swear first.
Swear first, all right. Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. If you could state your name for the record.
Yes, my first name is Nicholas with an H, last name Graviano, G-R-A-V as in Victor, I-A-N-O. I'm a partner, designer, and managing member of Graviano and Gillis Architects and Planners with a business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Homedale, New Jersey.
You're not testifying as an architect. Instead, tonight you're testifying as the project manager who oversaw the design of the proposed addition.
Yes, these plans were developed in conjunction with my business partner, who is in the audience, a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey.
So should there be any technical questions, we do have Mr. Gillis here to answer those, but Nick, as one of the principals, is going to go through. So Nick, simply, why don't you walk through the floor plan as well as the elevations, and let's just talk about what's existing and what's proposed.
Certainly, Ms. Krimko. Is this at an angle that's visible to everybody?
It's not great. I
right, would you like me to
bet you the
turn
folks
more
over
towards
here
the
probably have trouble seeing it.
And Mr. Fuller, this is
Thank you.
This is purely just the architectural plans that were moved into evidence at the first hearing as A2, and that was May 18th, 2023, and they've been on file since in advance of that hearing.
That is correct. These plans have not been altered in any way from the submission initially provided to the board. Okay, first page EC1, that's the existing conditions of the existing school.
And just to correct you, when you say school, it's used both as a school and a synagogue.
That is correct.
Okay, so when he says school, really for purposes of this application, the building is being enlarged to accommodate the school, but it does serve that dual use.
That is correct. So the main function of this design was to, one, improve the appearance and functionality of the existing building, as well as providing the additional space for the growth of the educational institution. EC1, that's how the floor plan sits today. As I get to the further pages, the focuses will be on creating a more pronounced front entry, creating more light in the main hallway corridor of the building, reconfiguring existing space to fit the needs better of the applicant, as well as the addition that is in the rear of the building. EC2, this is the existing facade conditions. As you'll see, the entrance to the building is very understated. This is a 70s building, built with low ceilings. You go in there, you definitely feel like you're stepping back in time a little bit, but we're certainly proposing elements to make the building a little bit more user-friendly for the applicant. A1 shows you the proposed addition and alteration to the first floor of the building. In purple here, you have a entry.
Nick, just before you go on, we had you color-coded it for ease of understanding. Just explain what the various color coding is.
Yes, I was about to get into that. The purple denotes new building. That's building that does not exist today. The light blue is reconfiguration of existing space that is in the current building. So what we have in purple at the main entrance is a new glass lobby to create more of a presence from the parking lot, as well as to bring more light into the building. Extending down the hallway into the school building, as you see in light blue, that'll be areas where we're raising the roof to accommodate glass to bring light into the structure. As you see here in the existing space, there will be a reconfiguration of the existing multi-purpose room, storage room, and kitchen. One, to create a new smaller kitchen because there's not much cooking done at this facility, as well as to accommodate new restrooms and to create a little bit more space in the multi-purpose room, which is used for a variety of uses, recreation, arts and crafts, things of the like. In purple, you have the first floor rear addition, which will contain 3 classrooms, an elevator and stairs up to the second level of the addition, as well as an additional office space. I would also like to note that there will be minor reconfiguring of the existing office space at the front of the school. A2 denotes the additions that are being conducted on the second floor and alterations to the main building. This purple here extends the roof of the synagogue area. It essentially mirrors what is there now. This is done because that portion of the building has a low ceiling and it's dark, and the applicant seeks to bring light into that area. You'll see the light blue of the glass hallway corridor. The purple of the second floor shows the new second floor program, which is 3 classrooms, a conference room, 4 office spaces, and 2 new bathroom facilities. A3 just shows what I described to you in larger detail. I don't need to get into that again. Just flipping to the facade elevations.
Importantly, and I think that before you go through the summary of the facades, what's the maximum height allowed in the district?
30 feet.
Okay, and what's the maximum height of the building?
The building addition is 29 feet, 7 3/4 inches.
And the existing building is a little over 30 feet.
The existing building's a little over 30 feet. That is at this point, which is existing. We're bringing the new roof down over the multi-purpose room in that area.
Okay.
It's not going to be increasing that height.
So importantly, the building height conforms to that which is required for single-family homes.
That is correct.
Okay, so why don't you just walk through the facade and indicate which, since we have so many frontages here, why don't you indicate which roadway it's fronting and or the parking lot?
Certainly. On A5, number 2, the proposed front elevation, when we say front elevation, that is from the parking lot. So here you have the new glass entryway, which is the main building addition from that elevation. The glass will reach 22.5 feet, far below the height requirement, being able to bring light into the building, which is desperately needed. Here you have the Logan Road elevation. This is the main addition in the so-called rear of the building.
Well, when you say that's opposite the front or opposite of the parking lot, so that wouldn't be Logan Road, that would be the Roselle Avenue.
Roselle Avenue, I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is the area where you presently have the trash enclosure. The applicant really spent painstaking detail to get something that was going to be attractive, not only for the institution itself, but for the neighboring residents. Here you have a base course that is going to be blocked to match the existing block of the building, which is a tan type color, with glass windows and stucco elements to break up the windows and the block. You also have pilasters to provide some architectural distinction, as well as to accommodate drainage mechanisms from the roof.
And that's based on the testimony from Dave Besh that all the roof drainage on the addition is going to be collected and piped to a current storm drain.
That is correct. You'll see a metal roof, which is done to help shield the future HVAC equipment that will be placed on the roof. So that will provide screening so you do not directly see the HVAC equipment from the street.
So when you say metal roof, you mean a parapet?
Yes. One thing I would like to highlight, and you could see it on the addition plans, is we staggered each segment of the building by 5 feet to create a stepped type appearance to prevent a long monotonous wall. You'll see this technique done many times when you design townhouses where you want those steps to provide a little bit of definition. We did that to break up the building and provide a little distinction to the facade elevation. As you
Mr.
see,
Graviano, if I could interrupt, so just to carry your thought there, your explanation. So that means the top picture there,
yes,
from here it looks like it's a flat wall.
yes,
That's what those are the steps.
yeah.
Step backs that you're
I'll do
talking
the
about,
overall
right?
plan just so you see it a little bit better.
So those steps, that's
That's
5
That's-
feet is the top line that you're showing us.
That is that elevation. It does not portray well in that view.
Okay.
So that's why I made it a point to let the board know this isn't a flat building. We really wanted to provide some definition to create a nice looking building, not only for the site, but for the neighbors.
Do you have what that view is today? from Roselle? That's the top line there? Or the second line there? That's the top one. Okay.
Yeah, it's really serves a service purpose. You have the trash enclosure there. There's the asphalt access to the trash enclosure area, which we're removing. So this elevation's drastically improved. You have a very nice looking building and a removal of a lot of the asphalt that will be replaced with landscaping.
So basically, the building itself is buffering the neighbors from the activity, which is really going to be on the south side in the parking lot area.
That is correct, and then there also is an extensive landscaping package on site.
Thank you.
This ease is a little tough to work with, I'm sorry.
Screwed up all your folds. Sorry about that.
Thank you, appreciate it. So this is the view from the corner, which is the rear addition, going to the side where you have the existing signage. That's the side of the addition. That is flat. Doesn't have the jog because we don't have the space. We wanted to meet all the setback requirements here, so we kept that a little bit more modest. You'll see on the bottom elevation, this is the spine corridor of the hallway that will be bringing the glass up to provide the light into the building.
Any questions for Mr. Graviano as to the architecture?
Where that peak is on the left-hand side in the third elevation, the left-hand side of that exists. Is that glass now?
This is exactly how it looks now. We're mimicking that architecture
Okay,
to make a...
So there's glass on the left and you're going to add it to the right.
That is correct. We're mirroring it, essentially.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public, Mr. Graviano? So you can come on up. As a reminder, we ask questions of each witness as we go through witnesses, and then at the end, the public is allowed to make comments. Sure, no, that wasn't directed at you. I know you know the process. I know.
John Waldron, 1207 Herbert Avenue. I don't know if I need to speak into a microphone.
If you could.
You want to have a seat, Mr. Wolf?
Certainly. Okay. Well, one of my questions would be how many of the old growth trees that are there will be affected by this addition?
I'm not the witness for that question.
Yeah, that was the engineer, and I believe that he did testify, and we do have a tree removal plan as part of the application. Again, this is just architecture.
Okay, all right. Well, the other thing is, I don't know if you would agree with me, but, well, would you agree that the existing architecture is very kind of low impact on the neighborhood? You have the big sanctuary part, but the buildings themselves are kind of low and don't really have that great an impact on the neighborhood. Do you agree with that or not?
I agree that it's a one-story building in parts, and the synagogue portion does approach 30 feet.
Right, but all I'm asking really is, what, with a two-story addition, such as you propose, I think one of the elevations shows 26-foot run. That's at 2 stories high. That seems pretty massive to me. Wouldn't you think that is a much more higher impact on the neighborhood?
Not at all. The applicant is conforming to the required height requirements for the district, and has provided a building that is complementary not only for the existing building but the neighborhood as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for this witness?
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I'd indicated, my planner isn't available tonight, so, but we wanted to get as much as we could in with the 45 minutes. So based on that, I would ask that the matter be adjourned without the need for further notice to the next available meeting, and I would ask what that date is.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
for Ms. Krunka? Has your client considered maybe doing a special meeting instead of the 45-minute at a time meetings? So we can get more in and try to get.
We only have one witness left,
Okay.
so we really expect to finish by the next meeting.
Ms. Krupa, did you have, I'm sorry, I had to go back and I was here, somebody from the school kind of go walk through the history of the old application and
No, I
just,
think that we did that through my witnesses. If there are questions with regard to, if there are questions for the applicant, I can certainly put up a
I would just,
representative.
I would love to hear testimony on just the overall history of the property, the resolution that the variance that was taken place in 2011, how it got to the numbers that it was there, and then why it's going to go higher.
I'm not sure that we can offer other than the testimony that was given that the school has grown, and it's to accommodate the school. But I'm just not sure. I'm happy.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm happy to put them on. I mean, I have, and you may remember this started as an application for a summer camp.
Right.
And the rabbi who is integral is I believe on the board, testified at the original hearing for the summer camp, and is involved in the operations, is here. So if there are questions, I can certainly, while we still have time tonight, bring him up and have him answer questions.
What do you?
That's
You're
up to
making
you.
noises over there.
This brings something up. So this is not the third meeting, it was a prior meeting. That our board members would have to listen to.
Yeah, because this is an amendment to that application.
Okay,
So yes.
you got that?
Ooh.
This summer,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
is that
Yeah.
just one meeting?
I don't know. I'd have to go
It
back.
might
and
have
look.
been. It might have been two.
I think that might be two.
I just, when you talked about that, this is a continued application, so even though that was for a camp that they withdrew, I think that the members need to
Well,
listen to those tapes too.
Well, certainly the testimony for the summer camp is not necessarily relevant to what we're doing today. This was an amendment to that application, and the amendment was to withdraw the summer camp and instead move forward with the addition. So it technically is not a new hearing, and it did not start over.
So I just find those tapes in YouTube and they can fast forward those having anything to do with the camp. But it may give them some history and background, and it would make everyone eligible.
Yeah, it does give background, right? Because it rang in my ears discussions over how much noise high school girls make versus children, and there was talk about how bad it was now. And so when I start thinking about what happens with adding people, that's kind of what I want to get some testimony
It's all
on.
part of the same application.
Yeah.
So when the YouTube contacts are made, find out. I think it may have been 2 meetings
Yeah.
prior to these 3.
Yes.
I'd love the opportunity to introduce Rabbi Joseph Dayan to you. He was
Sure.
sworn at the camp hearings and remains under oath. While some of his testimony may be repetitive, it sounds like that the board members still have some concerns, so I'd certainly like to have him address first what the acting board chair had said with regard to the noise, and then again reiterate why we are making this application.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for listening and for having us. Yeah, as regards to the noise, right now we have about 160 students, and it's a typical school, but I think as we pointed out with the camp application, that we really don't have so many activities outside because we're really not allowed to be out there. There's nothing really out there for them other than, coming in the morning, there's the hustle bustle, obviously, which is normal. And sometimes by lunch, you may have a couple of kids go outside to get something, but it's really, it's minimal as it could be, the impact on the neighborhood. I think that's what we do because of the fact that we don't have the space outside to hang out and run around. So it is very minimal, and it's just normal coming and going, so I think having more students, I don't think would really impact that much, other than another bus or so, or, you know, more people dropping off in the morning, but it shouldn't be a major impact.
So you don't have throngs of students hanging out in the parking lot. It's the function of the noise that would be typical for any school, such as the high school or any of the elementary schools, though the elementary schools do have outdoor play, and the high school does have outdoor gym and a track and a football field and the like. In this case, it's really just the students coming and going in and out of the building.
Yeah.
They're not congregating outside.
Exactly. I mean, the reality is it's a school, it's a house, so there's gonna be more noise than a regular
Sure, yeah.
house, but I don't see that having another 30, 40, 50 students will, you know, increase the noise in a major way.
And with regard to the history, we had indicated, and you said at the last meeting, that the number of students who are interested in attending the school has been growing, and that this is to accommodate those students that wish to attend.
Yeah. And just be a little more, you know, the building's old and tired, and we wanna, you know, just be in line with some of the beautiful schools that are out there, you know.
Do you have a planned enrollment number? I'm sorry if that's already been.
No, not at all. It's a great question. I think we said we want to get approved up to 250. I think it's going to probably take us years to get there if we ever get there. But, you know, like Ms. Kunko said, we definitely have interest, and we don't want to cross the number, and we want to get permission to be able to do it properly and to be able to accommodate everybody comfortably.
Okay, so the 250 is intended to be accommodated within the 6th classroom expansion?
Yeah, exactly. And that would be the maximum number.
Okay.
We should get there.
Is the school only during the week, or is there
Yeah.
functions on the weekend that happen?
No, it's Monday through Friday, and then we have the
Services.
synagogue on the weekend, which is a different use and a different.
Okay, and while we're talking about the synagogue, those of us who, and I know some of the faces up there have probably been in town as long as I have, and may have attended bar and bat mitzvahs or weddings or the like when it was Temple Beth Torah. When the school purchased this building, this was an active and vibrant conservative synagogue, correct?
Yes.
And there were no limitations with regard to the number of people, is that correct?
Yes.
And many of the congregants actually drove to services, unlike the Orthodox synagogue that is there now, which stipulates that there would be no driving on Shabbat or any of the times when there's a big group of people there.
Yeah. Now, actually, to Mr. Fuller's point before, and what Ms. Sprinkler was saying, it's funny, after the last hearing, we were talking to some of the neighbors, and one of the gentlemen who was asking some good questions, who used to sit on this board, actually, I remember when we were here for the camp, he actually pointed out that his parents have been living there for many years, and he was like, it was much, much more active than it is now. Like, you guys are like, you know, much less percent than what it was, because they used to have bar mitzvahs, weddings, parties, hundreds of people, you know, it was action.
Yeah,
Now it's
yeah.
like, we're using a third of the parking lot, and it's like really, you know, 9 to 4, and we're not having parties at 10 o'clock at night, you know what I mean? So it's really limited down. Like, I really believe that for the neighborhood, it's as good as it's ever gonna get, and we do a pretty decent job, you know?
And-
Perfect, I don't perfect, but we're close to it.
But you're working on it, and
Working on it.
those neighbors at the last meeting that had questions or had concerns, you and one of the board members actually met with them, gave them your number,
Yes.
are readily available to accommodate them, and as I'd indicated, you had the electrician go out and immediately put in those timers.
Yeah, we want to be friendly to the neighborhood. Back at one of the hearings, we sent some, you know, things to some of the neighbors, and we're not looking to affect anybody in a negative way. We're just trying to run the school and you know, do some good. And, you know, we want to respect the township, the board members, the neighbors, the neighborhood, and it's a priority for us to make sure that we do whatever we can.
And as it relates to the synagogue, at the original hearing in 2011, there was quite a bit of resistance, and because the congregation was so small then, the then applicant, same applicant, but you weren't as integrally involved, just agreed to the number 50 because you didn't see that it would be a hindrance, and it was important to get the approval so there could be continued prayer there, correct?
Exactly.
And since that time, the number of people who want to pray there has grown, and you anticipate that it likely will continue to
It
grow.
didn't even grow that much, but it might, and we're here, and we want to just say, you know, we don't want to have those restrictions, you know?
Right, so you don't want to have to come back should
Exactly.
should a family or two move with people who would exceed that 50, and you just want to be able to have the same rights to use the synagogue as the conservative synagogue did for 30 years.
Yeah, it seems that I wasn't involved in 2011, last minute, they were trying to make a deal with the synagogue, and they rushed, and they just wanted to get approvals, and they kind of agreed to a lot of things that were like very, aggressive, but, yes, I just think that, that was the nature of what happened,
So before that application, there could be service and unlimited number of people there. We come out
Subject to the fire code.
sort of the fire code, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So before 2011, it was a conservative synagogue where most people drove. So for any sort of high holidays, for example, I believe the police department would have to come and direct traffic, like they do at Torah El now. They would have bar and bat mitzvahs. It would be catered affairs. There would be music. There would be DJs or bands. So yes, it was an active. Plus, it also had Sunday school and Hebrew school. So there was weekend activity there as well. And, what was proposed in 2011, and I wasn't the attorney then, but certainly what was argued is that it's a much less intense use than what has been there historically. And I think what we're saying now is, we're increasing the number of students, and increasing the number of staff, we're not really increasing the impact on the neighbors, because most of the concerns that the neighbors have raised was with regard to buses. Well, it's a permitted conditional use. If we had 10 acres here, the bus impact is the same. So the impact isn't a function necessarily of our site, it's the impact of the use itself. So when you look at today's use and taking what was that service area along Roselle and bringing it interior to the site and away from the neighbors, and adding the 6-foot fence and adding all of the landscaping, I think that you're not only improving what was pre-2011, but now you're also improving what is currently there today and addressing some of the concerns that the neighbors have had since 2011.
I have
Questions?
Sorry, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned the school is essentially 9 to 4. What happens after 4 o'clock? Does anything go on after 4?
I said 4, might be 4:30.
That's okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Listen,
What happens after 4? Nothing. I think the custodians come, clean up, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes the principal might stay an extra half hour, like normal.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So just curious, why 10 o'clock the lights? Why not 7 or 6 or 8?
It's a good question. I just think that's the nature of the custodians come at like 6 or something to start cleaning. I mean, that's just the nature of who we have contracted right now. But
I'm just-
no, that's
the
no
re-
particular reason.
The reason I bring it up, I mean, I understand what the one gentleman said about the impact on the neighborhood. I mean, you got that one elevation is now, it's just a brick, right? Now you're putting up this beautiful, it is nice, it's a nice design, but it's this curtain wall that light's going to blare through on the neighborhood. I mean, could you cut that time? I mean, if there's nothing going on, why do the lights need to be on?
We could definitely try. I mean, I think the lights, like we said, we put on timers. I'm happy, and the extensions do the same thing. So I think by 10 o'clock, they shut the lights off. Honestly, I think the impact from just the lights in the neighborhood would probably be more from them coming in a building or out a window. We can put shades. We can do a lot of things to address that.
Understand.
And I think that, it's a good point. We could look into seeing if the custodians could come earlier, you know what I mean? I get scared to promise anything because then I feel like we have to, whatever, but it's a good point.
Understood. I'm just.
And I think, Mr. DeGenero, I think the point to remember is it's not a 4-story building shining in. It's while the wall is big, if a single family homeowner owned this property, they could have a wall just as big and have an entire wall, of glass. So the impact of the building really meets the light, air, and open space that you're considering. But as it relates to, I don't think that the testimony is that all the lights of the entire building are going to be on from the time the school closes until 10. We're just committing that there will be no lights on as of 10 o'clock on the inside.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and totally agree. A house can come and they can go up, and it can be totally glass, and they can keep their lights on until midnight, and there's probably nothing you could do about it. But I'm just trying to lessen the impact on the neighbors of the changing situation that's happening. That's all I'm asking.
Right. So I think that,
Yeah, we'll look into that and see if we can even make it sure.
So the other question I have, so what's going to happen during the summer now? Does the camp still happen? Does it not happen? I know we had
there
this.
is no camp.
There's no camp anymore.
No camp.
There's summer school, a handful of students that's been going on, whatever. Yeah, we pulled it back in an effort. Honestly, we had discussions about this, like maybe we should go for it all. Like, why should we, come back? Some of the neighbors came out and they were, saying, why are you going to mess with our summers and more noise and this and that? And And Jennifer just advised us, she said, look, you know, let's try our best. We don't absolutely need it. Would it be a nice thing to have? Yeah. Does every other school in the whole entire world have a camp? Yeah. But in an effort to show our goodwill and the fact that we're trying our absolute best to make everybody happy, we decided to pull the application for the camp so that we could show that we mean business in the sense of, and it could be revenue for the school, it could be a lot of positive things. And like we said, even for recruiting, people come to the building, they have a connection to the school, it helps to recruit students. There's a lot of positives that we gave in, but we just felt like, let's do whatever we can, even if it's giving on some of the dreams that we have, to make the neighborhood happy. And I hope that some of the neighbors recognize that gesture, because it wasn't an easy one, it was a major gesture.
And I think, just so the board understands, this wasn't done piecemeal. Well, it came in pieces, but it wasn't intentionally done piecemeal. The camp application required almost no changes to the building at all. I don't think any changes. It was just the exterior playground area. We were hoping, when it was applied for, to be in for this summer. We always had this addition planned, but the plans weren't done yet. So during the course of it, when we realized how much resistance there was to the camp, and we realized that the main resistance was that it was going to be more activity in the summer, and that it was going to be outside activity in the summer, and the neighbors basically said at those first two hearings, and those of you that weren't here will hear it, that, you know, they put up with the school during the year because they have to, but they don't want to now have their summers disturbed as well. So that was when, rather than add the school to it, as Rabbi Dayan said, recognizing that it's important that they stay as good neighbors, we withdrew that and said, you know what, we're just going to come with the addition because all of that is interior activity, and we're actually bringing some of the activity away from the road and redirecting it into the parking lot area away from those homeowners.
And if I may, I just want to reiterate, you know, I have a camp that my wife runs as well, and we know the landscape in the neighborhood. I don't know of a school building that doesn't have a summer program in the entire area. I mean, even in Long Branch, there were 14 school buildings. There was only one. We spoke to the superintendent that they were not sure if they were going to use. Ocean Township maybe had one. I think 15 Logan, they might raise it now. I don't know, you guys know better than me. But it's very hard to find a school that doesn't have a summer program. So I just want to point out that it is a major thing that we withdrew that, you know, part of the application.
I have a question for you. So, let's say, what's to say you're not going to come back after this building is, if it gets approved and so forth, and reapply for summer camp?
That's a great question.
And the other thing about the schools that I want to mention is that most of the schools that have summer camp have very large acreage. They're not small.
That's true. That's a good
Okay,
point.
so,
That's a good point.
and
There are some that have similar to us and also have a summer camp.
Right.
You mentioned Torah L that has some type of summer program in the summer also. But there are some, but you're definitely right about that. And the answer is, there's nothing to say for sure. We can never say never. Right now, it's not an immediate use. In 5 years from now, if there's a situation, it might happen, you're right. But
We'd
for
be-
right now, we're pulling it off because we want to only do what we have to do, and we want to show the town and the neighborhood that we're trying as best we can to accommodate them.
And Mr. DeLimo, I mean, from a legal perspective, to answer that question, we withdrew the application. It doesn't exist as it relates to the summer camp. We could certainly come back and file new, but we'd be required to start over, present from the beginning on notice, new application, new fees, new everything, and go through that process. So it would be no different than any other applicant who could come in and do it, but the main focus is on accommodating the school and trying to address some of the neighbors' concerns through that.
well, my concern was for the neighbors actually, in that if you're withdrawing the application for the camp and going forward with this other project, my main question was, what's to say you're not going to come back 3, 4, 5 years from now and say, okay, now we want to do a camp as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the plan is not to. You know, like I said, we can never say never, but definitely, a good plan.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, from my own personal point of view, and this isn't a comment on this specific application because it happens with other ones as well, and, you know, private homeowners, but sitting up here and getting an application before us where we find out, you know, and not that anything was hidden, but the part of the testimony is they had a variance 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, to get certain under certain circumstances something approved, and then we're back And now those goalposts are now moving, so to speak, right? And so it just for myself, it puts me in a very uncomfortable position because those people, there's one person that serves on the board that was there back then. They made an exception to a rule, right, under certain circumstances, and now we're going to be asked to change those circumstances, and it's not a very comfortable place to be, as I hope you are
If I
aware.
can just address that, just from
Yeah.
a legal perspective, and then I'll defer to Jim from a planning perspective. The municipal land use law and all the cases that interpret it contemplate this. Applicants are allowed to seek to change conditions. So again, this board needs to weigh the proofs the same way the board did in 2011 to see whether or not we meet the criteria for the conditional use. There may have been reasons for the imposition. I don't know how many of you were on here long enough, but originally at the Hillel, when there was the day camp there were a lot of strict imposition of restrictions because no one knew how it was going to be. And it was a temporary variance where they had to show and prove and came back until we finally came in and asked to have it lifted in its entirety. So I understand what you're saying, but that's part of being on this board is as the times change, as the needs of the applicants change, applicants come in and change conditions, and it's just something you need to consider. And once my planner's here and we go through what are new variances as opposed to what were previously granted, and whether or not the lifting of those conditions changes any of the impact, that's what really you would weigh. I'm sorry, Jim.
That's okay. It's basically what I was going to say is they come back with a new application 3 or 4 years from now. They still have to make the positive proofs, and they have to show that there's going to be no substantial negative impact. And if the board finds that they either haven't made the proofs or that there is a substantial negative impact, you're not obligated to approve an application. You have to look at it within the statutory requirements.
But obviously within the confines of the law.
Everyone move their cell phones away, please. I don't know what the difference is.
And also,
Yes.
not just with
Yeah.
regard to the ordinance and the statute in New Jersey, but in the larger confines of RLUIPA and the federal protections that you have for religious uses like a religious school or a synagogue. So I think that there's a lot of things at play here that maybe were not considered in 2011 because the applicant was so eager to just have a home for their students that they didn't look at the interplay of all these different regulations.
Yeah, and I can also understand what John is saying about being put in a position. But what I always used to tell my wife is what I do for a living is sort of like being married, because no matter what I say, I'm wrong. It's pretty much a lot. You can't make a decision without somebody finding fault with it.
Yep. Any other questions? So you used your time, right? Oh yeah, right. Any questions?
This way.
Come on up. Yeah, for this witness, we could use the microphone over there, right?
Hello, I'm John Waldron, 1207 Herbert Avenue. And my question is basically, does this sound like just regular disembarking and embarking on a bus?
I have to object until
This went on for 45 minutes.
I have to object,
This is
Mr.
not
Chair.
first of all, it's not a question
Well, I
for
asked
this witness. I think that's more of a comment.
Okay, but it was mentioned today that, none of these things occur.
I'd ask to have Mr. Waldron stop playing whatever's on his phone because one, we don't know what it is. Two,
Well-
it hasn't been moved into evidence. And three, we haven't verified when it was taken and what was occurring at the
So you
time
have
it
to
was
lay a
taken.
foundation in a legal
All right,
sense.
I understand that, and I can certainly do that, but I'm just asking, because it seemed like it's so idyllic that, they just go into the classroom and they come out, and there's no noise other than embarking on the buses and disembarking. I'm afraid that's incorrect, but forgive me, I didn't mean it that way. I'm asking if you can understand, at least, that there is more to this than, I think this will prove it. I can't say any more about that. All right.
Does anyone else have any questions? Come on up. If you could just state your name and your address, please.
Yes, Valerie Bruno, 2301 Logan Road. I had two questions. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks. One, wait, sorry, I think I got distracted with John. It brought something else. It modified my question a little. One of the questions I have is, do you have a wait list for students at this time?
We have applicants that we turn down, but we don't have a wait list now. In other words, we make a decision and we take some, and then we don't take certain, and that's it, but we don't have an active wait list.
Sorry, I lost my question.
It's okay?
It was a piggyback off of John's.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, my question, what is the purpose of it? Well, part of his question was about noise. The buses bring in a lot of noise. So my question is, what is the purpose of having a bus remaining on, or multiple buses remaining on site all day with employees sitting in the bus? I mean, that's a violation of OSHA standards and everything, and extreme temperatures, because the buses can't be running, right?
Right.
So what is the purpose of having them parked and sitting there?
Because the buses come from far away, so I guess the company decides that it's easier for them to stay local than drive back and forth, you know? I'm not sure if you're sitting on the bus, I can't speak for that.
Yeah, but the buses could go to Neptune, to the Siemens Hub lot that the other bus goes to or
I
something?
think what Ms. Kirk was talking about was the extra bus. If we should have a fourth bus, which we don't have today, but if that should happen, and we don't have a parking space for it, then that bus would go to Seamount to the parking lot, yeah.
Yeah, I understand the bus wouldn't necessarily go back to New York.
Right.
That'd be too many trips in one day.
Right.
But I just don't know how they would be, why they're even sitting in a bus that, I mean, again, it's not, per the 2011 resolution, it's not supposed to be running. So how are you sitting in a bus with no heat or no air conditioning in extreme temperatures?
I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not sitting in the bus the whole day. Either they're leaving or they're coming in or they go inside. I'm not sure exactly where they go. I could look into that.
You have two buses remaining at site today.
Yes, we do.
And this application would put a third bus on site,
Yes.
right?
Potentially.
And then if you have a fourth bus, it would go to Neptune. Gotcha.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I have a quick question in reference to the buses. How many total buses do we have that are going to be bringing students in?
So I think in the last meeting we testified that the traffic person. I don't want to.
I'm gonna read it from the notice to make sure that it's accurate, because I don't want to,
Now, and I also understand there's going to be there's the tour buses that come in with the students, and then you have regular school buses that are going to be in addition to that. So how many of them are going to be tour buses? How many are going to be
So
full-size school buses, and how many are?
it's gonna be 4 coach-like buses, so that would be the tour bus that you referenced, Mr. DeLomo. 2 full-size school buses, and 1 small bus van, and that would either be a van or one of the shorter school buses.
Okay, and out of those buses, 3 of the coach buses are going to be staying on the property, and the other 2 full-size school buses will be leaving.
That's right.
In addition to the shorter bus.
Yes.
Okay.
Should we have all those buses? You know, obviously that's not today. That's work. You know, that's full.
And just a question that the young lady brought up earlier. Is there a possibility that we can have all those buses just go to the bus depot rather than stay on the property and idle?
I guess anything's possible, but I think it's easier for them to stay. Well, they don't idle. The bus is not running now. I'm running the bus all day. But I think it's easier for them to stay on location. So I think that's our preference. Like it's been going on for many years. I guess like you said, is it possible? I guess it is possible, but we have to make other arrangements and see if that would even work.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And that there would be availability and the like.
Space, right?
I do have one more question. I'm sorry. How many students fit on a coach bus? Do you know the?
Yes, I do. I'm up from camp. 56 for every single seat is taken.
And how many on the school bus?
54.
And the short bus?
It depends. There's a bunch of sizes. It ranges from 20 to 30.
Call it 25. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem.
That's well. Any other questions from the public? Okay. So this will be carried until August
Thank you.
August 17th.
Thank you.
With no further notice, it'll be that meeting will take place in this room. Thank you, sir.
So much, everyone. Thank you.
Let me make sure I'm on the right agenda. Okay. All right. Wait, did Ron just leave?
Yeah. And one of the members.
If anybody needs to use the restroom, now would be a good time to do it.
Unless they're not filling up. The coach buses are coming from. Right, but if they're coming from different neighborhoods. Right. 100 more students. So it's hard. Yeah. No, it's on the freehold. Couldn't be in zone residential.
Was he here for that before?
Yeah, he was. And now it's a different house. It's the same house.
We'll call Andrew and Keith Compton next. If you want to get yourselves ready, come on up.
The board member?
Oh, yeah, I see that.
I suggest it. Going lunch for the drivers. They do, it's at the city.
Okay, our next case is Andrew and Keith Compton, Block 151, Lot 10, 10 Freehold Road in Ocean. This applicant would like to construct 2 additions to the existing 1.5-story dwelling. This property is in a commercial zone and therefore a use variance is required, as well as a front yard setback variance for the pre-existing nonconformity. Attorney for the applicant, Mr. Harold Hensel.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. Congratulations on the reappointment and the appointment to everyone and your chairmanship, sir. This is an application, as you've indicated, by Andrew and Keith Compton. Andrew is standing to my left. He's the owner of a single-family residence on Freehold Road. We have 3 witnesses this evening. Andrew's going to talk about a minute or two about the residence that he lives in. We have Eugene Wright as an architect to explain the elevations of the proposed 2 additions. They're small additions. And then I have Tara Paxton as a planner to offer planning testimony concerning the basis for the request for the variance. It is a use variance request because it is a pre-existing non-conforming use in the zone. The zone does not permit single-family residences. This residence has been here for many years. And that's basically our case. I hope to make it a little bit briefer than the last one and probably get out here.
We'll do our best.
So if I can, I'd ask Mr. Compton to be sworn.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you may be seated and,
Yeah, we'll have Mr. Compton talk a little bit, and then can I turn to you, Jim? And
Well,
that makes sense,
I
or do you
think
have something to?
Considering this is a D variance.
Yeah, sit down, guys.
And we have some new members of the board, I think it might be good for me to just briefly explain the nature
Okay.
of the variance and just to summarize my report.
Okay.
And basically, this is for the new members of the board. There are two kinds of variances that you'll be looking at as members of what are called C variances, which deal with bulk requirements, whether it's the lot coverage, the setbacks, or so on. And then there are the D variances, which historically have been called use variances, and the municipal land use law, which designates all of these different types of variances, has changed over the years, so that you have 6 different types of D variances. Some of them aren't strictly use, some of them do deal with the use. What this applicant is proposing here is an expansion of a use that is not permitted in the zone, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. And the standard that you really have to look at as a board is whether or not the improvements that are being proposed improve either the functionality of the site, the appearance of the site, or somehow provide a substantial planning improvement to the site that would justify the granting of the expansion of the use. And whether or not the use is on the site or not is not really an issue for you to consider, because it's there, and the courts have said because it's there, it can continue to operate exactly as it is now. So it's really whether or not the expansion is an improvement some way of the use, and whether or not there's any substantial detriment to the zoning as it exists and as it's proposed for the area. And basically, I just do a quick summary. It's in the 0120 Office Limited Service Zone. Single-family residences aren't permitted. This is on Freehold Street, and the site's located between basically Route 66 and Freehold Street. And it's an area where there are several pre-existing homes, and it's not really an area that's appropriately zoned for single-family residences, but because of the surrounding uses, a determination was made to zone it for 0120 office use, recognizing the fact that those residences are there, and they're probably going to continue to be there for the foreseeable future. I don't have a big problem with the expansion. I think you have to look at the access as far as the road goes. They are requesting C variances for the front yard setback. And again, when you look at this area and the configuration of the houses and the lots, I don't think the setback variances are very consequential. I don't see any substantial negative impact. I think what's being done here makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Matlack, did you want to give a quick summary of your report too?
Sure, I will be brief. There's not a whole lot of engineering concern with this application. My only comments in my review letter were that the architectural plans indicate 2 different phases. So maybe just some discussion on that by the applicant on what exactly that means. The applicant included a grading plan with the application. It looks acceptable to me, so I don't have any issues with that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Mr. Henson.
I have
You're on.
very little to add to that than echo everything.
That's
that's
good to
been
know,
said.
right? That's know where they're
Yes,
coming
and
from.
Let me have Mr. Compton sworn in at this point. Is he swearing?
He's sworn in.
He's sworn in.
Yep.
Andrew, where do you reside, please, sir?
I live on 10 Freehold Road,
Okay, and what's there? What's the residence look like?
so it's just a single-family home. My wife and I and my 11-year-old live there,
Okay.
and we're just looking to make it a little bigger.
Yeah, the proposal is to add on 2 additions, one on each side of the house. Is that right?
Correct. Originally, we wanted to do one at a time, but we're gonna just get it done.
Do both of them at the same time. And
If it's allowed, yes.
as I understand it from your discussions with your architect, you talked about 327 square feet on one and I think 335 on the other, and it would go on each side. The variance, explain the roadway to me, because I want the board members to understand.
So, Freehold Road is right off of, Asbury Ave, right before it splits from, 66. And it's a dirt road. It's been there forever, before Route 66. We just have 2 neighbors, and one house is vacant, is the business on the end?
Yeah, the business on the end, the roadway of Freehold Road is improved, is that right? It's paved?
Correct.
From that point on, service, the roadway, it's a public roadway, servicing your house and the other two houses is,
It's a dead end.
It's
a
a
dead
driveway?
end road on a hill.
and it doesn't have a
You
cul-
can't see that on the map, but.
Yeah.
It basically functions as a driveway.
Correct.
Okay, and the road's not improved, it's just
That's correct.
gravel,
sir.
is that correct?
That's right.
Services, I know that the application, do you have public water, do you have public sewer?
Zero, neither one.
Okay, municipality picks up garbage on the street,
That's correct.
plowing, snow plowing in the winter?
Plowing if I call and complain.
Okay, otherwise you're able to.
That's
get-
on-demand service, that's called.
It's, it's hard, it gets missed, a lot of people, they say, oh, it's not paved, they look at me like I'm crazy, you know, but yeah, it's there.
Okay, your house fronts and looks across this road, Freehold Road, at what? What's that project across the way?
Mobility Crest.
And what is that? You didn't-
It's, apartments, I guess,
age restricted apartments, and behind your house, what's behind the house?
behind is just woods.
Okay, there. And you're before the board because obviously you need use variances for this because it's not permitted in the zone. It's kind of an oversight that this isn't a residential zone, I take it, but that's the reason for being here. That's all I have with this, and I'll go on to my architect.
Any questions, Mr. Compton? Do you need more testimony?
No.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the public? Do you need to bring anybody else up?
Yeah, I have Gene
Okay.
Wright, the architect, who'll give us a couple of moments of
Why not?
Architecture. And I've got a planner. I have a planner. I'd like to use Mr. Higgins, but I think I should present a planner.
Yeah, sure.
Gene, that first picture. Well, why don't we swear you in, Gene, if we can? And Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, and Gene just had knee surgery, so he's gimping around quite a bit.
Okay, that's fine by me. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
Gene, would you state your full name for the record, please?
Eugene D. Wright Jr.
And we're offering you as an architect. Can you give the board your qualifications and your CV, basically?
I am a partner with the Letter and Right Partnership, which was formed in 1986. I have a degree in architecture from Virginia Tech. I have been a professional planner for 42 years. I've been a licensed architect for 42 years. I'm a member of the New Jersey Society of Architects, a member of the American Institute of Architects, and I've been the chairman of the Ocean County Construction Board of Appeals for 30 years.
Okay.
Very good, thank
I
you.
would offer,
Yeah,
as an
you'll
architect, we have
accept,
a
yeah.
planner. Okay, Gene, you have up on the board there, that's the plan that was submitted, that's just basically the plot plan of the property showing the residence, is that correct?
That would be the engineering plan.
That's the engineering plan. If you can step up and show us the architectural that, or these are all part of the application, and I think all the board members should have these plans.
Yeah, Amy, I forgot to ask you to mark the packet, right? Thank you. I knew you did.
You just mark the board packet as B1.
We discussed that already.
I missed that.
You're way
appreciate
behind
that.
us.
I appreciate
You're way
that.
behind us, Mr.
That packet contains all the professional reports and the plans.
It does, and there's certainly no objection to all the professional reports. Go ahead, Mr. Wright, if you can explain what's up on the board now and what the proposal is.
So if you look at the plan there, you'll see the middle section, which has the double lines, but it's clear in the middle. That is the existing dwelling. The existing dwelling is roughly 1,118 square feet, and there is a partial second story above that. The shaded or darkened lines are the addition. To the left, we have the bedroom, which is 330 square feet, and to the right, we have the family room, which is 670 square feet. If you add them all together, that along with the existing space, we have a modest dwelling of 1,788 square feet. The building is a wood frame building. Part of the building is on a basement. The remainder of it is on a crawl space. Our intentions are to try to match the existing building as closely as possible. The existing peak of the roof is roughly 18 foot 10 inches. The highest point of the addition will be 15 foot 9 inches, so we'll be well below that.
The building has vinyl clapboard siding. We're either going to match that, or perhaps we can't match it, just do all new. That same proposition would exist for the roofing system.
And the front of the two additions, that's not going beyond the front yard setback of the existing residence, is that correct?
No, we purposely set that back from the front of the existing dwelling.
Yeah. Based on, Mr. Chairman, from the professionals' reports, we are seeking variances for those, but we're not exceeding what is already there. But that's the basis for those requests for front yard setback variances.
You want to flip to the elevations or continue on?
Yeah, if you, can you do it? You want me to do it?
It is stapled together, you can look at it publicly. Or just look at the page. Maybe I should have done it.
You should have done it.
Yeah. It's more an architectural thing than it is a legal.
Gene, while he's
I'm not gonna, I'm sorry.
Gene, while he's doing that, can I ask a quick question that maybe more for the engineer? But you said the setback is no closer on the addition.
I have to look at the site plan. I believe that we are behind the planner can testify to that.
Okay.
Position.
I know that the geometry of the house is oblique to the setback, so that's why I'm okay. And I can't. It's not big enough for me to read.
100%. If you look at this particular sheet, sheet 2, the top elevation is the facing out towards the street. The center section is what's existing. To the left would be the bedroom addition. To the right would be the family room addition. And when you flip the house around to the back side, it's just the opposite. And the two bottom elevations are the side elevations. And it's pretty straightforward. Pretty simple addition.
Is the proposal to be built on a crawl space?
I would do it on a crawl space.
Okay. For both of those?
Yes.
Anything else, Gene?
I have nothing else except for questions.
Mr. Chairman, any questions? of
Any
board members?
questions? Any questions from the public? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd call Tara Paxton as our planner. And I know Tara has not appeared before this board, so I'm going to ask her for her CV, which I think you will enjoy.
Okay. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Tara, state your full name for the record, please.
Tara B. Paxton, T-A-R-A-P-A-X-T-O.
And you are a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
I am.
If you could share briefly with the board your qualifications as such. Your
I
CV.
have a degree, a bachelor's degree in environmental planning from Stockton University, a bachelor's degree in marine science from Stockton University, a master's of public administration from Kane University. I've been a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey since 1998, and I think that's 25 years now. And a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 2000. I have served as a planner for the County of Monmouth, for the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Township of Thrift since the year 2000.
And I'm familiar with Ms. Paxton, so she's definitely
You're going to
qualified.
vouch for her?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And my product is tutoring.
Very good.
Michael Fowler.
Yes.
We didn't even get to where you're teaching, Tara, but we'll leave
Oh,
that.
sorry,
If acceptable to the board, I'll have her testify
Yeah.
as a planner.
I teach planning at Brown University in Master's
Excellent.
Program and at Kane University in Public Administration program as an adjunct professor since 2015.
Thank you. Acceptable?
Yeah, of course, yep.
Thank you. Tara, if you can, you're familiar with this application. We went out to the house some time back and looked at it. If you could, explain to us the basis for your opinion concerning variances here. The D2 specifically first, if we can.
D2 specifically is required under New Jersey statutes annotated 40:55 D2 for the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use of the single-family residential use and for the specifically for the two small additions to the existing structure. The additions will serve as a second bedroom and expansion to the living space as was testified before by the architect. And the two bulk variances, which the C variances are required based on not what the zone requirement is, but what the zoning officer determines would be the most appropriate zoning scheme for the determination of what the setbacks should be. And that was enumerated in your planner's report and your zoning officer's report as well. So the property was built in 1930, according to Monmouth County tax records. And in 1992, this zone was created to permit a litany of commercial and retail service, laboratory, and other business uses. And then it was also revised with 2 overlay zones in 2005 to permit planned adult community and senior citizen overlay. As the township planner, Mr. Higgins indicated in his letter of May 10th, since this area of the site did not clearly fit into any of those planning schemes in the master plan, they understood that they would create this small nonconformity through the zoning process. This does create a unique situation for the 3 homes on this paper street, or not paper street, but dirt road, where the development of the parcel and the expansion of these non-conforming uses would result in the special reason which is required as for the grant of the D2 expansion of non-conforming. Because they can't develop what is allowed to be developed in this zone. The lots are too small. It's very unlikely for it to consolidate with adjacent properties. It just has to continue to exist as a residential use, and then these small expansions are just very insignificant in the whole scheme of the zoning plan and master plan. This approval would not have any substantial harm to the zone plan. The purposes of municipal land use law are advanced by the grant of this variance. Purpose of municipal land use law A, encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use and development of all lands in the state in a manner which promotes the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The decision of the township to zone this property as such made sense at the time. However, created the situation where these homeowners have to now seek variances that doesn't make it an inappropriate use as it is, and it exists, and it will continue to exist. So it is an appropriate continuation of the grandfathered use and an appropriate allowance of the expansion of that use. Purposes of municipal land use law E, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighbors, communities, and regions, and the preservation of the environment. This proposal is consistent with establishing continuing the appropriate population densities. It's not an addition of new non-conforming uses. We're not adding housing here, but it's the continuation of existing concentration that maintains this neighborhood. To promote desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. This proposal, while not saying that this house is historic, but as I look around, it's probably as old as a lot of the photos on the wall, because it was built in 1930. But it does improve a historic bungalow type home, and it maintains the character of that by the additions to the same scale and scope. And it is attractive. It will be attractive for the neighborhood. And you know, we have to address the negative criteria and prove that there is no substantial detriment to the grant of this variance. The expansion of the use itself is not an issue because it is residential for one family and it will remain that way. The structure itself, the expansion of it is inconsequential as it will not intensify any residential uses. The bulk standards that are violated, the front yard setbacks, are minor changes from what exists, and since the right-of-way acts more like a driveway, as has been testified to, because it is the only development at the end of the street, will not have a significant impact on the zone plan and is essentially inconsequential. There is no substantial detriment to the public good for the grant of this variance. And the positive criteria, the impact of this proposal in the surrounding neighborhood involves the continued use and enjoyment of a family home, and it's an upgrade of the neighborhood. That brings an aesthetic upgrade that is consistent with surrounding developments.
All right, and if I could just summarize then, as we talk about the D2 use variance, the basis of your opinion that it is appropriate to grant a variance is because the variance is a special reason. A special reason is created by way of the zoning that's been created there.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
It's fair, and it's uniquely situated in between 2 industrial, commercial, and residential zones, but can't be developed as any one of those. So it created a unique situation and the special reason for the grant of the variance.
And that's the D2, and then I believe you were going on C2 variance for the bulks indicating advances the purposes of zoning from 4055D-2, I assume, correct? Okay, and that's where you ticked off those specific subparagraphs as how it was advancing the purposes of zoning, is that fair? Okay, and you see no negative impact with the zone plan and zone scheme?
I do not.
Okay. You've had an opportunity to see the reports from the engineer, the planner, any issue with any of the things they've set forth in their reports?
Not at all, Mr. Higgins, said it all really nicely.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
Do we know lot coverage?
I do not have that on the plans, I believe, maybe, Mr. Martlet could.
I do have it. It is not significant. I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact number, but it's below the
it is on there?
minimum.
It's on the left side. Got it.
It's hard to see.
Mr. Matlack said it's below the threshold.
I think it was well below the zone requirement and the requirement that was imposed by, using the, R2 criteria.
Good enough.
Any other questions? Any questions for the public? Okay, would anyone like to close the public hearing?
Make a motion.
Second.
Amy, call the roll.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chmura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Lemesky?
Yes.
Mr. Puja?
Yes.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion for positive resolution.
Second.
Amy, call the roll.
Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chmura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Lemesky?
Yes.
Mr. Puja?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank you
it.
very
That
much.
sounded like 5 out of 7, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I appreciate your time very much. Thank you all.
Next up, we have case number 3, Robert Davidson and Stephanie Russell, Block 22, Lot 61, 332 Overbrook Avenue. Applicant seeks approval to keep an AC condenser, install a rear patio and rear water feature, and modify an existing driveway on a pre-existing non-conforming lot and dwelling. Attorney for the applicant is Jennifer Krimko. Hello again.
Good evening, everybody. Jennifer Krimko on behalf of the applicant. I know with these smaller applications, you usually defer to your professionals to read, so I'm gonna sit down and say very little for this application.
Okay. Jim?
Okay. And again, I'll summarize, and just, again, for the new board members, what will be requested here are C, or bulk variances. They're under section 70C of the municipal land use law. And there are two separate ways they can qualify with positive reasons for a C variance. One is that there is something unusual or unique about the physical characteristics of the site itself, either its shape, its area, topography, or something else that's legally existing that creates a hardship so that the applicant, not that he can't use the property, can't do anything with the property, but that he can't do what he might otherwise be able to do within the confines of the zoning ordinance. So that's a hardship. The other would be whether it's called a C, that's a C1, you'll hear that referred to. The other is a C2, and a C2 means that the benefits of what they're proposing, which you heard on the last application, usually it's advancing one or more purposes of the municipal land use law, that those benefits substantially outweigh any detriments that the granting of the variance might cause. In this instance, you have clearly a hardship situation. The site is grossly undersized. and there's no way to improve the area of the site. Its minimum lot area, width, and depth are all substantially lower than the ordinance requires. The front setback is 5.2 feet, 30 feet is required, and again, that's existing. The side yard setbacks are substantially below what the ordinance would require, again, because the width is only 38 feet, and the ordinance requires a width of 90 feet. So that's where the standards are developed on those types of parameters. There are a number of bulk variances required. The first is that the ordinance prohibits construction in hazardous areas, including floodplains. And what they're proposing is to put a patio at the rear of the building, and because they're proposing that construction, the entire site's within a floodplain, so they're proposing that construction within a floodplain, and they require a variance from that requirement of the ordinance. And that's really a safety issue. I will defer to Ben on that. The other is maximum impervious coverage. And where coverages are concerned, the way the ordinance is constructed is somewhat different than many other ordinances. You don't take, normally a coverage is the percentage of coverage versus the lot area. In this instance, it's the percentage of the coverage versus the buildable lot area, which the buildable lot area is calculated by eliminating any environmental, the sensitive areas on the site, such as floodplains, wetlands, and so on. And then what you have left over, multiplying that by 75%, that's your buildable lot area. Now in this instance, the entire site's floodplain, so the buildable lot area is 0. And clearly you can't divide by 0, so the impervious coverage is well above the 90%. It's actually infinite. That is because you have to divide by 0 and you can't do that. So when I looked at it, if the site were not in the floodplain, the impervious coverage that they're requiring is actually well within the ordinance requirement for that size site. And I think clearly there's a hardship because the entire site is within the floodplain. And the issue again is safety, which I'll defer again to Ben on that. There is another issue with accessory structure setback. Again, that goes to the shape of the lot, the size of the lot. The patio is going to be, let me read the report. The ordinance requires that accessory structures 3 feet in height or less maintain the required 10-foot side and rear yard setbacks. The plan proposes 8.5 feet and 3-foot side setbacks and a 3-foot rear setback for the patio. And again, that goes to the fact that the site's so grossly undersized that they really couldn't put the patio in and conform and have a usable patio. The minimum driveway setback, again, the ordinance requires it be set back 5 feet. The existing driveway is irregular in shape. At the closest point, it's 1.41 feet from the southern side lot line, and the applicant's proposing to just extend that for the entire length of the driveway, widening the driveway, so therefore a variance for the side yard setback of the driveway would be necessary. 5 feet is required, 1.41 feet is proposed. The only other comment I would have, and this is a comment of the zoning officer, is that the previously submitted plan stated that the existing rear fence that had been placed on the adjacent property but a short distance.
Just to correct you, when she corrected her report, I don't know if you got it.
I did not
Based
get
on
it.
an email that I sent to her.
Oh, okay.
That
Yeah.
fence is not our fence.
That's not your
It's
fence.
the
Okay.
neighbor's fence, it's their rear yard fence.
Okay.
We didn't place it, we don't have a right to move it.
Okay. So that comment's withdrawn.
Easy.
Basically, it's a grossly undersized
Yeah.
lot, and the variances that are requested make sense because there is a significant hardship.
Mr. Matlack?
First, I want to note that my report is dated March 10th of 2023, and the most recent plan is dated June 15th, 2023. I did review the most recent plan, and my comments from my March 10th letter still apply.
Okay.
So no new report was prepared. my comments are that the applicant should discuss stormwater management and how the installation of the paver patio in the rear will affect drainage patterns and neighboring properties. Whether any grading modifications are proposed, and the need for any approvals from the NJDEP regarding flood hazard area permits. We note that the improvements appear to be at grade with no net fill to the site and no building modifications, and the applicant should just provide testimony to verify that.
Thanks. So,
Amy, can you mark the packet?
wow, that you guys said that the exact same
Keep
moment.
on. I keep on beating
If I
Mark on
wasn't-
that.
If I wasn't
keep
over
on beating him.
50 and in my capacity as an attorney, I would say jinx, but I didn't say it. So just B1 is the packet, and I just want to go through the survey revised through 4/12/23 by Insight Surveying is A1. A2 is a variance plan by Insight Engineering, revised through 6/15/23. A3, which is up on the board, is a proposed conditions rendering with aerial, and A4 is a handout aerial to see the neighborhood, and I do have reduced copies of these to hand out to the board members, just so they can see it closer. And while I'm handing these, I guess you just take one and pass it down. And have Pat sworn, and I think that in his capacity as your planning advisor, I think Jim really gave the planning testimony, so I'm gonna have Patrick stick to the engineering.
Okay. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Let's give you background.
Patrick Ward, engineer with Insight Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey for over 10 years. I testified in capacity as a civil engineer, professional engineer from this board numerous times.
Yep.
during the last 4 years.
We'll accept it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. So, Pat, referencing what we just moved into evidence, and I think that we're not gonna repeat everything that Jim said with regard to the lot size and the area, just referencing the color, just point out to the board what's existing and what's proposed.
Sure.
Yeah, so what we have here is from the air how the site will look at the very end of the day if approved. Really the crux of the application is a very small sliver of driveway here that is completing the remainder of the driveway, believe it or not, but that's the case. And then in the rear yard today, it's there's gravel out back, and there was a partially constructed patio that was actually taken out just due to the fact that it didn't comply with any of the zoning requirements. So right now it's gravel. We're seeking to formalize and finalize something approved by this board for this rear patio.
And then lastly, they put the air conditioning unit in, not realize in the same location it was.
Correct.
Not realizing it needed a variance, which is kind of what triggered all of this in the beginning.
Right, and one quick comment that the lot is grossly undersized. If you look at the aerial exhibit, particularly to the north,
Why don't you show them?
I know they all have it. That's a good point. But I'll just hold this because I don't want to take the other one down. But really, to the north, as you get to Roosevelt, this is common, especially with the two properties to the north. Very undersized, and with homes that I think are older than the zoning ordinance, or at least the latest change to the zoning ordinance. This property is very well landscaped, and we tried to show that on our exhibit. The applicants have done a great job of putting in a lot of creative features to not just make it all one, pavement or gravel area. So there's a really nice walkway on the side. They're trying to have an off-street parking space in the driveway. So they've done a lot of work to the exterior. They want to finish it at the rear, and we've shown some of the landscaping here. And in terms,
And that's existing landscaping.
it's all existing. Yep. So this is just we'll call it the icing on the cake, if you will. In terms of the engineering comments. We're trying not to change grade. We really can't because of the flood zone, right? So the goal here is, and I say ultimately everything does head towards Elberon Boulevard. It is lower than the rear of the property, and that design intent is to remain. The driveway, there's really no grade change. It's just filling in, not many pavers at all. The rear.
Pat, so then we're not going to be changing the drainage pattern, have any effect on the neighbors?
There's no change in drainage pattern, correct.
Okay, and with regard to the DEP, this qualifies as a permit by rule, which means we don't have to get a formal permit.
Correct. So the DEP flood hazard rules, they allow for these permits by rule, which are more or less exemptions. That's how they're written, as they sound like they're a permit that you have to submit, but there's nothing that the DEP accepts as a permit by rule application. So this qualifies. It's really the sliver of the driveway and the patio would fall under the same permit by rule. It's construction in a fluvial flood zone at grade or below grade, and both of those would qualify. If there, and there isn't, but if there are any grade deviations, there is another permit by rule that allows up to 5 cubic yards of landscape material, which pavers would qualify as to be brought in for a single family home. We definitely don't exceed that, and I don't think we actually get to 1 cubic yard. But the goal is to keep the grade exactly as it is with elevations and not change the drainage pattern.
Are there any questions for Patrick?
Any questions? I have one question that might be slightly off topic. We have this listed as Overbrook Avenue, and I see Elbron Boulevard. This is.
Oh, okay.
Is there a reason for that?
I was just
No,
going to say square.
it is 332 Elbron.
Oh, okay.
Oh, on the agenda.
On the agenda, it's Overbrook. Okay.
Yeah, Elbron.
I thought I was going to learn something new about it. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on topic? No? Any questions from the public? No? Okay. Anything else? That's all you have? You sure? Okay.
Motion to close the public.
Motion made, second made to close the public hearing. Anybody from the public have any comments? You never know. Okay.
Motion to close the public.
Second.
Can you call the roll?
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Paloma?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chora?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Leneski?
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli?
Yes.
Do we have a motion for positive resolution?
Motion for positive resolution.
Second.
Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Paloma?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chora?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Leneski?
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last one, I'm going to save him the last time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Next case is case number 4, Lauren and Todd Hundley, Block 79, Lot 3, 920 Bendemeer Avenue, Ocean. Applicant seeks approvals for a proposed covered front porch and existing shed on a pre-existing non-conforming property with necessary variances for front yard setback, building coverage. Is that it? And side yard setback for the shed.
Good evening, James Finley. My offices are on Ocean Road. I'm on behalf of my son and daughter-in-law, Todd and Lauren Hunley. Hold on my minute. And I have 2 witnesses to present to the board. First being Lauren Hunley, who just testified a little bit about, little background, why they want to develop the property, and then Ron Pashman, I believe, presented their architect, I believe, testified before the board on that application. If you may, swear Lauren in.
Sure. Ms. Hundley, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Tell her to mark the packet.
Amy, can you mark the packet, please? You did beat me that time. Yep. Mr. Higgins, can you give us a quick overview of what we're going to talk about here?
Surely, it's an existing lot. It's a little over 10,000 square feet. It's 75 feet wide where the ordinance requires 90. And there's an existing shed on the site that has a 2-foot side yard setback and a 2.4 foot rear yard setback. The ordinance requires that it be setback 5 feet. The one question I do have, which I'm sure could be clarified, is that the plan shows that shed in the same location, but then it also lists the word shed in another location on the site, but doesn't show a shed outline there. So I just need clarification whether that's just a typo and whether the shed's going to remain in the same location. If the board determines that it wants to approve the variances for the shed, what it's done in the past is have a condition of the approval that if the shed is ever destroyed or replaced on site, that it be replaced in a conforming location. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with that. There's a minimal front yard setback. The existing setback for the steps is 21.5 to the porch is 21.5 feet, and the plan proposes a 26.7 foot setback to the porch and 20.7 feet to the steps. So that's to the steps. It's a little bit less than what the existing setback is, but quite frankly, it's an open area. Nobody, without looking at a plan and measuring it with a scale, could tell the difference. So I don't have a big problem there. They have a building coverage variance. The ordinance permits 27% of the buildable lot area, as I described with the prior application, what buildable lot area is, and they're requesting 28.4%, which is 119 square foot more than the ordinance would permit. 79 feet of that is the shed, and 28 square feet of that is the covered porch that they're proposing. So I don't have a big problem with that. It's not that noticeable. It's minimal.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Could we hear from Mr. Matlack real quick too? Do you mind?
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I only have a couple quick things. I think a construction detail for the proposed driveway and the apron should be provided. I'd recommend that the driveway apron and the associated curb and sidewalk behind the apron be replaced since it appears to be settled, and the driveway will be used as a construction entrance. Additionally, driveway is being widened, so we want to make sure that the sidewalk and driveway apron match the driveway width. The applicant should discuss the need for a tree preservation plan. According to the ordinance, I would defer to Jim on the review of that if it is needed. I issued two reports for this application. The first one made mention that some stormwater management discussion should be made because there is a proposed dry well. A drainage report was subsequently submitted, which addresses my concerns, so I don't have any issues with the drainage.
Thank you. As far as Mr. Higgins, the second shed is one of those metal sheds you used to buy at Sears. It's collapsed and it will be removed.
Okay.
Does that improve the lot coverage then?
I don't think that was taken into consideration.
I think there's two sheds on the site now. Yeah. So the one. So the lot coverage is 28, still 28.4. I think it is.
Okay.
Which the lot coverage that's calculated doesn't include that shed that's being removed, so it doesn't change the lot coverage.
Lauren, where do you presently reside? And how long have you resided there? And who do you reside there with? And how long have you been a resident of Ocean Township? And Lauren, you and your husband Todd recently purchased the property 920 Bendemeer Avenue. Can you just tell the board what first attracted you to that property?
Well, first and foremost, the size of the lot, because our lot in West Elmhurst is somewhere around 45 by 45. So we have no real yard there, so this is a huge improvement for us. And then the fact that we have enough room to build a house that now will fit our family, and allow us to have a garage and a full backyard.
And what was the other factor that drew you to that particular location?
And our children will walk directly across the street to the school that they're all attending.
And Lauren, with regard to the use of the property, proposing an addition? What is the purpose of the addition?
So that we have enough square footage for our family.
And currently the house, how many bedrooms does it have?
3.
And the addition, it's a 2-car garage with a bedroom above it?
Yep, the 2-car garage with 2 bedrooms above it will allow for us to have 4 big bedrooms for us and our children.
I have nothing further of this witness, and if there's any questions.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Next witness is Don Pashman. I believe Mr. Pashman has appeared before this board on numerous occasions in the past, has been qualified as an expert. He's being presented here tonight as an architectural expert.
Okay. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. You've testified before this board. Yep, we remember you. Yeah. Let's go. You'll see. No,
I was looking at the pictures behind her, almost said an architectural expert. I mean, excuse me, an agricultural expert.
Let me just go through a little bit of a reply to Mr. Higgins' report. The shed is just an error.
Yeah, that's.
There's not a shed in there. When I first
Yeah.
saw the property 6 months ago, there was some crumbling something there. It should never have been labeled a shed on this drawing.
Okay.
So there is one shed, pre-existing, in the back corner, 2.4 feet, 2 feet from the rear. And it's about 69 or 70 square feet. So I just want to clear that up. Let me just, if you want to just talk briefly about the property, it's roughly 75 by 140, 1,675.6 square feet. It conforms with the R4 zone. Presently, there's a 2-story dwelling on the property. The east side property is 10 feet from the property line, which is not mentioned, but there's a landing and stairs that impinge about 4 feet on that side yard. We're removing that. The front yard, a little bit of a crooked setback thing, but it's about 30 feet in the front yard setback with this large concrete porch and steps. I have it on the chart as to what these numbers are, I can mention it. We're tearing that completely off, rebuilding it, because we're building on the addition on the west side of the house. So we get a little bit better improvement as to the bulk, size, and setback to the stairs and landing. So the existing house has 785 square feet on the first floor and 672 square feet on the second floor, being that there's a 1-story west side and a sunroom that was planned. That's coming off, and then we're putting this additional in. We're changing a little bit of the aesthetics, and I can go through that if you want, but just to keep it moving. It's gonna be more like a Tudor type look on the existing house, and the addition, being hard to match it, it's a departure from that, and it's a salt box shape, and it keeps the character of the name Tudor on its own, and it plays a lower feature to that house. So all in all, we get the garage on that addition on the west side, and a new stairway, which is replacing the east side stairway. Right now, it has a basement that's only 6 foot 7 inches tall, with a 9-inch girder down the middle. And the addition is going to have a basement, and there'll be access through this stairway, and it'll be a little bit taller. In the end, the design allows for about 1,570 square feet of first floor livable space and 1,665 square feet of second floor space. We have the violations that we have for the variances that were requested are the front steps, but we're making it better. We're eliminating the east side steps and landing. We're putting a front porch in front of the
this land, which is, I think, 20-something square feet. In order to use a bracketed roof, but it doesn't impinge on the front of the second panel covered feet. And the rear detached shed in the back, which is about 7 square feet. Because of those two things, the roof over the front porch and the shed, it became over the 27%. A little bit of one thing that the roof was added later, the front porch and the shed, I didn't realize was going to be complicated. So I kind of designed the house to be at 27%. And I had these bonuses on these little pieces. So that's where the request is for this coverage. And I can go through the whole plan with you. That's the basics. I think we can talk about the plans. I'd like to do that if you want.
So you're making a number of improvements to the house, and there's a couple spots where you're going over, and we have a little cheat sheet right on our agenda, and so what we hear about these additions and stuff like that almost doesn't line up with this, and that the reason is because it really just comes down to the porch, existing shed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the side yard setback is 15 feet. That's
Does the pool? There's going to be a new pool. Does that?
in the plan. We want to make sure we had everything on it. And we had the engineer, Mr. Surmont, do a drainage study with that in mind so that if they built it tomorrow or something next year, they have the drainage and they'll have the drywall up in place.
And that all the coverages anticipate the pool and all that stuff, right?
All the coverage,
Yep.
impervious coverage.
Yeah. Okay.
Does the drywall just serve the pool, or does it take on water from the house also?
It takes water from the house as well, from the water drains.
So you could say that the excess building lot coverage is being addressed by the drainage system that is being put in?
That's correct.
So if the pool is not constructed immediately, the drainage would still be installed in the, I guess, initial phase with the building addition?
I would say probably. Comments about that? Just
Drainage is a big thing with Holidays. You ask my dad, who comes from a long line of men who like our drainage, you know.
Maybe a delay on the pool. The grandkids like their grandfather's pool.
No, both our neighbors, our one neighbor didn't improve his house.
He's not under oath.
Yeah.
Not under oath.
Oh, okay. I don't know why they didn't let me speak.
Can.
Now we know.
One other thing is that in Mr. Malick's report about the concrete apron and the driveway, the idea is not to expand the apron of the concrete. It wasn't to replace it, even yes, it might be destroyed during construction. But anticipating that it's not, or even if it is, the size of it, we would like to make the same. And then just flare the driveway out as you go past the property line. So I have a drawing that shows the shed dimensions that was mentioned, the word shed being removed, and what I'd like to do with this driveway and the apron, given that we don't have to replace the apron, especially its size. It's really critical to keep that where it is because of the school drop-off zones in front, etc. People do park on that, so expanding that doesn't really help anybody. I don't think the Huntleys even would mind pulling up and doing a little flare. So I have 5 copies of these if you want to see what my thought is, just to make an improvement. Really don't do it. I'll just yell it out.
If I may, while we're here, I'd like to just move the package that was submitted by Mr. Castman into evidence.
Okay.
I'll share mine.
I think we marked it already, right? Or is it a different one?
That's
Mark that one separately.
You marked it?
Very.
Yellow means it's out.
So the modification of the driveway, I see what you're saying, that you want to keep it the same width and just at the essentially at the back of the sidewalk line, and then flare it out from there.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that. I think you might end up needing to replace the apron after construction anyway, because I imagine it, you know, with truck traffic coming in for the building construction and potentially for the pool construction, you know, you might have to, it might get further damaged than what it already is. So I would recommend that the apron be replaced as part of the project. And you're doing a new concrete driveway anyway, so that is, you know, the same type of work is going on there.
As far as the detail of that, I guess we can use the standard detail that Ocean Township
Yeah.
used. But you would like to keep the width of it the same.
That's fine.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
We will make no friends widening that. And we're not under a public comment. They already blocked it down, so.
I've been dropping off the children for the last 2 years, so they know the parking. I have nothing further, and
No more questions? Right, again, no questions from the public? Any testimony from the public? No, okay. Have a motion to close the public
Motion to
hearing?
close public.
Second.
Amy, call the roll?
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Deloso?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chimura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Loresti?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of resolution do we, what kind of,
We need to approve the lot width, which is existing, okay? The setback is existing, the side yard, and the accessory building. The accessory building is, would you approve it as existing though, right? It's
Yeah,
existing,
yeah,
all
with a
existing,
condition.
all existing.
With the condition if it's
When-
replaced,
So
it
we have
has
to,
to be
you know,
conforming.
reapprove the existing variances, and then they need a minimum front yard setback because they're bringing the new porch and steps to a foot or so difference
Yeah, yeah.
than existing. And of course, the lot coverage, because if you, using the calculation of buildable area, there isn't any.
What?
There isn't any buildable area.
No, that's the other one application. This one, they do have buildable lot area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
But-
sorry.
But it's just, it's minimal.
Because of the size of the lot, they're exceeding it basically
Yeah,
for about a percent.
yeah.
What's it? What do you say, 19?
119 square
That's
feet.
19 square feet. Those are the two. And the driveway is going to be a condition that, subject to his approval, the Ben's.
Yeah,
Ben will figure it
yeah.
out. You
Was
also
there
have-
tree preservation question we
Yeah,
did not
there's a-
answer?
Ben's report.
Just the way the ordinance, it's difficult to read the ordinance, but it's not required for this type of application. It's only subdivisions and site plans.
Okay. Would anybody, is anyone prepared to make a positive, or a motion for a positive resolution
I'll make
on
a
those?
motion for a positive resolution.
I'll second.
Amy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Deloso?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chimura?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Loresti?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Thank you. Good luck.
Take care.
That was the other one.
Jim?
Okay, last but not least, Joseph and Ruth Salama,
Leave it.
block 25.34, lot 15, 451 Brookside Avenue in Oakhurst. This application is for construction of an in-ground pool with fencing and equipment within the 100-year floodplain and maximum impervious coverage. Attorney for the applicant, Jennifer Krimko.
Good evening, Mr. Full, members of the board, Jennifer Krimko. That application has actually been amended. I don't know if it made it into the agenda. In addition to the pool, we submitted architectural plans where we are elevating the finished first floor of the existing house to bring it to the required base or design flood elevation to comply with the DEP, and constructing an addition onto it. So, with all of that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim and Ben, and then I'll move some things into evidence and have Pat clean up whatever outstanding items there are from Jim and Ben.
All right, Amy, please mark the packet. Mr. Ward, you still continue to swear to tell the truth, right?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Basically, it's a 14,500 square foot lot in the R4 zone. It conforms in terms of width, area, and depth. It's entirely within a floodplain, so it does need the variance for any construction within the floodplain requires a variance, but by the ordinance, and again, I defer to Ben on that. The front yard setback, the ordinance requires a 30-foot front yard setback. The residence is set back 30 feet, but the existing steps are set back 26.5 feet. The proposed residence is set back 30 feet, and the new steps are set back 23.94 feet. Again, the purpose of the ordinance is to permit adequate light, air, and open space. The steps are open. They're really not that visible, so I don't have a real issue with that. The building coverage and impervious coverage, similar to a prior application tonight, the buildable lot area is 0, so you really can't calculate the building coverage, which 27% is permitted, and the impervious coverage, 90% is permitted. If you look at the lot as having no floodplain, then both of those percentages would be within the ordinance requirements.
Okay. Mr. Malik?
Yes. A couple of quick things. Construction detail for the proposed driveway apron should be provided. The applicant should indicate which trees are to be removed or saved. It looks like some of the walkways and drainage improvements conflict with some of the existing trees. And I'll defer to Jim on tree compensation or street tree requirements. All outside agency approvals should be forwarded to our office, including any DEP permits. A brief summary of the stormwater collection system should be provided, and then the proposed pool equipment, air conditioning units, any other mechanical equipment needs to be proposed at or above the design flood elevation.
Okay.
Thank you. So before I let Pat start testifying, I just want to stipulate that for those things that Ben asked for affirmative action, we can comply with all of that.
Okay.
And I think that both Ben and Jim, Pat did a good job explaining what we're proposing. Let's start with, if you could, addressing the stormwater management, and then let's talk about trees.
Sure. So the lot today generally drains from rear to front. However, it's pretty flatter than we would normally design. So with the addition of the pool and its hardscape, we need to collect the water rather than try to rely on gravity to get it out over land. So we have a series of yard inlets, small plastic inlets that'll collect, and our goal here is to ultimately discharge everything towards the right of way where it goes today. What we do with this system at the very end, we perforate the end of it so there's no standing water. So the goal is to get everything away from all the neighbors out to Brookside Avenue and not having the standing water. So we're collecting patio runoff and the like as well. Regarding trees, we'll be happy to show on the plan which trees will be compromised by the construction. We'll show that as a condition of approval. There's a cluster of trees in the rear that the drainage and the patio will impact. On the right side, there may be one tree, and on the left side, there's a couple of small trees associated with this, where the walkway is, that'll be compromised. But we'll be happy to show them and comply with whatever the township will require for tree mitigation.
Okay, and with regard to the DEP, we did file an application for DEP approval, and obviously we anticipate that approval, that permit, we would submit it to you.
Yes, it's a general permit for flood hazard area, the lift and the expansion, and the pool is similar to last, one of the prior applications, it's a permit by rule as well. It just gets coupled in with that general permit, so the permit will state that the pool complies with this plan of rule. So we did submit that relatively recently. We expect that to be approved because everything complies with the rules and regulations.
And Jim, with regard to the tree removal, we would just
That's-
comply with the tree permit application.
Yeah, the tree permit, yeah, that's correct. It's not,
It's not the
you're
site
not
plan.
subject to the zoning.
Right.
But for the street trees, if street trees are required, you do have to provide the street
Won't
trees.
the street trees only be required for subdivision?
No, that's an ordinance requirement. That's a zoning requirement.
Is it might just be limited to new construction, fully new construction, so I guess
But
I'm
we'll
not
look
sure.
at it. In the event it's
Yeah.
required, we'll comply.
Oh, no, I stand corrected. That's only for site plans and subdivisions. You're right.
Any questions?
What are we putting in these additions?
That you'll comply with the tree ordinance.
I mean, what we're putting it, it's,
Expanding the bedrooms, what are we,
since the house fully complies.
well, you,
We're expanding the kitchen, adding a breakfast room and a den, expanding the dining room, adding a guest bedroom, expanding the size of the house and the living space. But we're not creating any variances as it relates to the house itself,
Well,
except for that front step.
The front
Steps.
setback, yeah.
so the additions are coming out a little further.
Mhm.
Now the addition,
Yeah, I would just say, comment on the steps. Today's landing is undersized for new construction, and it has 2 risers or 1 step down.
Okay.
We're lifting the house, adding a step, and then putting in a proper landing. So it really is a
that's the
hardship.
reason,
To meet building
the
codes.
addition is not creating any
Getting
variances
step
Yeah,
and landing,
yeah.
Correct.
in order to meet the new
safety
first
and
floor.
code,
Mhm.
and meet raised first floor.
Mhm.
Got it. So,
Okay. Any questions? Any questions from the public? Okay. Any comments from the public? No? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Move to
Make a
close.
motion for a positive resolution.
Second.
Amy, call the roll, please. Closing the public hearing?
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Bloomer?
Yes.
Ms. Littman? Yes. Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Chamorro?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Linaski?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, can we have a motion for a positive resolution with conditions that they'll get whatever tree plan they need to get over to you, right?
It is.
And no other conditions, right?
Oh.
Bennett, do you need something?
Just the mechanical equipment
I'm
needs to
learning.
be shown on plan.
Yeah, well, the things that you.
well, it'll be subject to his letter.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Second.
Amy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo?
Yes.
Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Linaski?
Yes.
Mr. Bugliotti?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.